This is the morning brief from the Economic Times.
Hello, everyone. Every once in a while, we take a break from the hurricane we call the news cycle. Take a deep breath, clear our glasses, and then chat up with a founder or a friend who inspires us all. So I'm really excited to welcome my pal, founder of eyewear brand Lenskart.com, and unicorn builder who sees things very, very clearly, quite literally. He's also a doting dad, a loving brother, and one of our homegrown sharks from Shark Tank, who takes mentoring very seriously. After all, he himself has built a 12-year-old company that is now worth almost $5 billion. Woo! Is being backed by the likes of KKR, Temasek, SoftBank, and TPG too. Now, valuations after a point are meaningless. Even in pandemic, despite a flat revenue in FY21, the company had actually increased its annual profits by nearly 4.6 times. No mean feat. It's Tuesday, 17th of May. From the Economic Times, I'm Arijit Barman. You're listening to Peyush Bansal through the looking glass on the morning brief. Peyush, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Arijit. Thank you for having me here. And thanks for the great introduction.
No, I mean every bit of it. And I want to start by asking, how do you stay cool? Yesterday when I visited you in your house, it's a lovely, lovely house. You obviously have had a busy weekend. You had a birthday, your son's second birthday. You had other family commitments. You were chatting with me. You had other phone calls. You are a mentor to many. There were so many things going on in your life parallelly, yet you kept cool. How do you do that? How does Peyush Bansal stay cool?
Yeah, so over the years, you just get used to it, Arijit. I think I wasn't always cool, I would say. I had this thing in my college when I initially went, the first year was so difficult with so much work pressure, assignments all over. Engineering was very tough in my college, and we barely used to sleep 4 hours. And I always used to be stressed out. And by the second, third year, it got better, and I could manage. And I think a similar thing has happened in at work also now. That you know that all these things are going to keep coming at you, and this is literally what you just described. In my view, is not even an iota of the kind of stuff that can come your way in a day. From we have 1,000 stores. What could be happening in each one of those stores? Some, we have a factory with 1,000 people. You get used to it. You get used to it to be patient, stay cool, and move on with the hope that everything will be fine. They say that movie, right? All is well. You kind of subconsciously adopt that, mindset that all will be fine, and that positivity is important.
And as you said in your blog post or LinkedIn post some years back, it's okay to be discontent. It's okay to be not okay. So that's important because a lot of people sometimes get too much bogged in by that they're just not happy. I mean, but you actually said that's fine. I mean, being discontent has not changed in you. You still think there is a long way to go, and it's been 10 years. So it's others feel the same. it's fine. It's okay to be discontent.
Yes, actually, you make a very valid point. There are always two perspectives of looking at things. You could, and I've seen this over and over again, that when we fail, or when things are not going right, or the whole feeling of being discontent, you can take it negatively and say, "Oh, everything is wrong in life, and I'm not happy, and I'm not satisfied." Or you can take that as a positive feeling, is saying that this is how it is supposed to be. And I've seen this over and over again. I was recently in Singapore at one of our stores, and Lenskart is known for having very, you know, uh, medium-sized stores. We don't have massively large stores on. And I visited, and the store manager, for the first time in my life, she told me, um, "Welcome, sir. We are small but quite cozy." And it stuck to my head, right? It's like, you can look at this, and I've always visited stores, and people have come and told me, they look at that as a downside. Even when they're projecting it to customers, look, we are a small store, but the other people have a larger store. Whereas this person took it a different way. So I think it's all about perspective.
Mhm.
I really think that all these feelings, and I have so many people who join Lenscard, and in the first 2, 3 months, they'll say, "I don't think I'm performing as much." And, this is, I was a rock star in my previous organization. Here, things are a lot more fast paced. And I tell them that you are just being discontent because you're putting you out of your comfort zone, and it's fine to be discontent, right?
That's true. But would you say, looking back, that you've actually found content within your discontent, and that's also got to do with being a parent now? That completely takes the equation on its head.
Yes. I would say so. I have definitely found content in being discontent. I have found, content in a lot of things. Overall,
In being able to sleep nonstop for 3 hours.
yes. We've seen the worst phase in COVID, and I do believe, and sometimes I just feel that the world and people should have a little bit more gratitude. We are even having this conversation right now, to the fact that we can go back to office, to the fact that we can hold a birthday party. But yeah, I have found content in a lot of these things, which earlier, at least to me, and I know a lot of people, I have to remind them back. People just don't realize that, you quickly go back to the old way of being, but I can never go back to the old way of being.
Mhm. And how does that translate when you put on your entrepreneurial hat?
See, one of the things that, I have become very, very sure about, and which was always, there are all these entrepreneurs that are out there, all these companies which are doing phenomenal work. And people always used to ask me, what's next for Lenscard? And even in my personal life, right? A lot of entrepreneurs I know a lot of them. Some want to continue the hard work for years. Some want to now calm down. Some want to take a break. Some want to take a sabbatical. Even in my own loved ones, a lot of people feel that, now life should be different from what it used to be. Now that Let's is a larger company. And there have been discussions about, should we really think bigger? Should we think global? And, why touch a stable ship, kind of thing, right? And all these conversations. And so for me, entrepreneurially, I've become very, very sure about the purpose of my existence, right? And it may sound a little bit, most of the people who I speak to about think of me that, maybe he's just abnormal. But I found purpose, that the work that I'm doing, I've got the opportunity to do at Lenscard, I really feel is the purpose of my life, right?
Right.
Entrepreneurially, right? And it's not about business. It's not about whether this is the right money making opportunity. It's literally about the impact that we want to create in lives of people through vision correction. I think For the last 10 years, I would say Lenskart was a baby, a mission, a business, but now it's literally a mission, right? For me.
Now, you touch upon a very interesting point because I remember even in our past conversations, you've used the word vision correction, whereas most people from the outside looking in would say, Lenskart, sexy frames, retail. But you're actually talking about retail plus, quite a number of things. You're actually talking about, as you said, vision correction. If you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, see, what does a pair of spectacles do? There are many health ailments, and there are many health ailments when it comes to the vision also. But one of the biggest ones and the most basic ones is the ability to see properly. And in that also, if you think about it, a pair of spectacles can solve a very, very big problem, especially for the young, upcoming, the future of the world, right? So if I look at all the kids, if I look at all the youth, they have to go work every day. They have to work on computers every day. They have to go to school and learn. And for that, the most easy problem and the biggest problem is getting a vision correction, which can be solved literally by a pair of spectacles. And you'll be surprised to know that what percentage of people and kids today go to school and they cannot see properly, and how that hampers their learning. What percentage of people are today driving all these cabs or rides home, delivering food, and what percentage of them can't see properly? And all it takes is a pair of spectacles. So, it is, in some ways, it is more plus plus, but in some ways, it's literally as simple as getting a pair of spectacles. Now, you may have got it because it is cool and fashionable, but you're also solving the other problem. It's like I buy shoes not to protect my feet from the hot surface, but I am actually doing that also. But the problem is that when I tell you to buy those to protect your feet, you don't want to do it. And that's the problem with eyewear, right? I feel that one of the reasons why so many people, despite eyewear becoming more and more affordable over the years, still don't wear it is because it is not sexy.
But tell me, Piyush, you run a company which has external investors. Very soon, I'm sure you will, or you're thinking of IPO, widening the pool of investors. In such a scenario, how does one balance the social aspect of, what you said, fixing the vision of the country versus top line, bottom line, 100 stores in 1 year, 5 stores in Singapore, after Singapore, Malaysia, then New York, then London. It's almost like being on a treadmill. So how do you balance both, and where do you, or can you really tell your investors, boss, back off?
I believe that some of the largest companies in the world were created for a purpose. Today, most of the investors, with all the wealth that they manage, they also want to make sure that their money is used to, to create a better tomorrow, right? While it needs to create returns, it needs to create a better tomorrow. And I've seen this across at least all our portfolio. And the reality is that when you are working to create a better tomorrow, and if you're doing things with the right mindset, with the right purpose, and you can and the fact that you want to make it a sustainable tomorrow, you want to make sure that your solution for a better tomorrow is also sustainable, it kind of leads to the same, right? And it's almost like our lives have become so much better with Google Maps, but Google Maps may not have started with the hat of, okay, this is the IRR I need to generate from Google Maps. It has started with the purpose of allowing people to live a better life, but in the end, it ended up being the good business case also.
True.
So I don't see a lot of misalignment there. Yes, if there is a point or if there is a topic where we feel this is not aligning to the purpose of why we exist, I can always push back to our investors, and they have been quite cooperative. So far, I think we've not had those instances, but things would happen, and I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I think all of our investors, including the top team, they're quite aligned to the purpose of why Let's Card exists, right? And which is why we have all had opportunity to do so many other things.
Correct.
And we have chosen not to.
And you've got the full stacks. You've got early VC funds. Then as you grew larger, you had from, the TPGs of the world. And then now you've got KKR, who once were called the barbarians at the gates. It's a very different era, very different context. But what I'm trying to say is you now have in your cap table big boys who the world believes only cares about IRRs and nothing else.
I would tend to disagree. I think a lot of it lies on the entrepreneur.
Right.
Right. It is. And this is again goes back to that, the conversation we had about being content with discontent. Over the years, one of the other that I have come to, accepting, and also I'm quite positive that most of the things that we complain about with others are actually our own internal barriers, right? I think a lot is about communication. A lot is about the entrepreneur on how you set expectations. A lot is about how you communicate and articulate, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would not put a judgment out there on any of the investors. I think companies become what they do because of the team that runs them and because of the entrepreneurs that set the vision, and the world follows.
Correct.
Right. So yeah, I have not had issues. I think we have been very clear. If you are clear, the world is clear. If you are confused, then you're bound to gonna get, multiple people running their own purposes and visions from this company.
It's all about a clear vision.
Yes, of the entrepreneur.
Of the entrepreneur, of course. But I want to also ask you about the brass tacks, which is tech is sexy, tech is very cool. But it also boils down to manufacturing and delivery on time, logistics, etc., which is the basic foundation of keeping customers happy and successful, right? How are you focusing on that?
So yeah, I think one of the core reasons why we have the deficit in eyewear wearers is the fact that there's literally very, very complex supply chain when it comes to the frames and the lenses and all of them coming together and converting into a pair of specs, which is a unique product for every customer. So it's not like car manufacturing, right? Where I manufacture 10,000 Maruti and they're sitting in my warehouse, and as orders come and I will park them in different hubs and spokes, and the same would go in an Amazon. Whereas in eyewear, right, after your order comes is when the work starts, because you have three products: a frame, which is similar to a car where I can pre-manufacture, but then you have a left power and a right power, which is all very complex and unique to you, and a fit, then your centers. And to do all of that fast enough and to do it consistently has been the challenge. And that is why you see only limited opticians to the number of mobile shops relatively in the country. So the idea to solve this is through technology, through automation, through robotics. So far, we have adopted the route of what, in Tesla, they call the gigafactories, or the, so, because, there is so much automation and so much innovation and so much to be learned, we don't want to open like hundreds of these. Plus, we are now right now building this mega unit, which would be able to deliver 50 million specs a year.
Wow.
And it is the largest in the world. It is the most automated in the world. I am not saying that just because it is largest and automated, it will be effective, but we are putting the bets, and we are working towards making sure that through this, we'll be able to create enough supply, faster deliveries, and higher quality and more reliable deliveries.
And 50 million specs you can manufacture, and this is coming up in NCR, where you are based?
Up in Bhiwadi, Rajasthan, in the
Mhm.
it's just around the corners. We intend to start in the next 3 months. It's huge for us. We are putting a lot of love, lot of energy, lot of hope, lot of investment in creating this because we do feel this is in some ways, it's going the Reliance way. I call it. When we at Lenscard, we pick up learnings, rightfully so, from all great companies that have been built in India. It's investing in the core, right? Because we feel that if we want to literally have half of India wear Lenscard spectacles, then we need to have the supply to do so. So we have literally sort of accepted and that is going to happen. So we are not waiting for that to happen for us to create the supply. We're creating the supply. It's like laying the optic fiber, enough optic fiber to know that we're going to, run the telecom network kind of thing.
And which are these inspirational companies in India that have truly inspired you?
Asian Paints. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Two
Because
completely different, different companies, very different spectrums, different sectors.
Yeah. So, I've always taken inspirations from companies, Reliance from the fact that they invest in the core,
Yeah.
and think very long term with a very strong belief. Asian Paints from the perspective on how just keeping it, investing in, really, really basics of customer needs around supply chain, how you can pretty much own and impact 50% of the market. And Maruti, right, in India has done a equally phenomenal job with distribution access for years now. I think over a decade, they've owned 50% market share in India. Literally, the way I would say is more than 50%. It's the reason why half of India has a four-wheeler today. And that's some impact, right? And with so much innovation that has happened over the years and choices changing. And another of my favorite ones is Indigo Airlines, where just by solving a simple problem of taking you from point A to point B on time consistently, they could create an airline which would allow people to go from point A to point B at the lowest cost possible and with the best customer service possible.
Correct. Now, you're doing so much, managing home, a business that is growing exponentially. I mean, it's tougher to say who's growing faster, your son or the company, because he's really getting taller and taller by the day. Uh, I also have to ask you, how did you then manage to get time to do Shark Tank? I mean, do you have what, 26 hours in a day?
So Shark Tank happened more out of passion, I would say. I've
Okay.
literally seen that show maybe 30, 40 times, almost all seasons. It's like anytime I would turn on my TV and I would automatically gravitate towards, after 10 minutes of browsing what I should watch, to watching the same season of Shark Tank, which I've seen again. It was interesting. This is not now. I watched Shark Tank for, since the beginning. And it has always inspired me. I've always guessed, seen who would invest, who would not invest, and looking at these companies, looking at kind of ideas from really early days. So I think when the opportunity came, and initially I was like, "Oh, I don't have the time to do this," right? But then my wife and my co-founder Amit, they have literally seen me watch Shark Tank, being obsessed about it. So they're like, how can you say no to this, right? And that's how it literally happened. That okay, if you really feel so, then I'll do it. And yeah, and then just went with the flow. You manage things when you don't have a choice, and you learn how to manage both. And yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. In terms of my horizon of the kind of talent that is getting developed in India, the kind of stuff entrepreneurs are doing, the pace at which they're doing it, the resources, the limited resources that they're doing with is completely transformed. And it has transformed my thinking. And literally, when I'm running Lenscart today, my benchmarks have changed because if my young, energetic team and comes and tells me, I want to do this and I need $1 million to do this and I will take a year, I can go back and tell them, boss, this company did it in $100,000 and in 3 months.
Mhm. True.
and all those problems. So, and if my knowledge of passion, my knowledge of the kind of aspirations people are developing has changed. There are companies that have come in. Literally, I was inspired that there's street culture. And for us, it's important at Lenskart because, we want to give glasses to the youth. And if street culture is what is coming into India, and I want them to wear glasses and in turn also solve their vision correction, then I want to have a street culture range at Highway. So yeah, I would say it's been phenomenal learning.
But that doesn't mean that you will diversify and get into street culture fashion yourself.
No, but I may adopt the street culture knowledge in Highway.
Understood. But which are those one or two innovators, entrepreneurs who came to the show and you personally were just blown apart? We're like, wow, yaar, ye to kamal ho gaya.
So, if I look at my own journey and I reflected on it at various stages during the Shark Tank process, was I didn't know 10% of what I know today.
Mhm.
And Lenskart wasn't even 10% doing the things that it is doing today. So it genuinely boiled down to the team, to the co-founding team, right? And how they're thinking, and are they open to, do they believe that the world is changing and it's going to change faster and faster? And do they have the appetite and the mindset to stay humble and learn and grow and change and adopt? And that's what I was looking for in almost all of our investments. Maybe some I got carried away with the idea, but I would say 90% it was literally that. And that's how I chose. So the bet was always on the entrepreneur. And of course, the idea, etc., is secondary. But the ones that, there was this fragrance company called Isak, the pitch that we saw, and the entrepreneur had literally, that humility. She's running it all by herself. Her passion for fragrances, you could see it in the conversation. She was positive. She's a mother of a child and, still so hungry. And I remember that if I looked at it from a business perspective, every shark rejected that deal, but I bet it, and it has been one of my best investments. The way the business is growing, the consumers love the product. It is almost my favorite gift now to whoever comes and whoever I want to gift. And they all come back saying that, wow, this is literally so amazing, so refreshing, the fragrances, and she's a rock star.
Yeah, मुझे तो नहीं मिला.
Just stand out of that.
Next time. No, and also, but मुझे जो मिला, that was equally interesting. That's Skippy.
Yeah. The other one, which I was actually not in the pitch, but I invested later, is this gentleman called Ravi from Skippy. These are the ice pops, right?
Yeah.
And it was amazing to see somebody so passionate about ice popsicles, right? And it is unorganized. We all loved it at school. You can't get it. It was always like a non-branded product.
We used to call it Chusky.
We didn't even know what we were taking in. And this guy is like making it all non-artificial flavors. When we invested in him, he was literally probably doing 10, 20 lakhs a month in sale. Today, he's crossed over 2.5 crores in sale a month.
Ooh.
Right? And but it is all the entrepreneurs. I have a firm belief that passionate, humble entrepreneurs who really want to make an impact, who are really passionate, are the ones who will change the game.
Last question for you, and something that you've been saying a lot throughout this show is that entrepreneur and humble entrepreneur. This is important because honestly, what I see, and I see a lot of it these days, it's a little disappointing if you ask me, is young entrepreneurs creating this God complex. कि boss, I'm an unicorn, I have arrived in life. And that is the beginning of the end of this God complex phenomenon. Would you agree?
See, firstly, I do want to state that a lot of this is just judgment on the entrepreneurs sitting from outside, right? Entrepreneurs are, all glory. And, one of my mentors is Ronnie, and he always says all glory is fleeting. And I have, over the years, pretty much accepted that, when you are in that limelight, you are judged a lot. So I won't really know enough to say whether there's a God syndrome there or not. But I do feel that entrepreneurs, by the DNA, have to learn and grow. They have to fail and learn and grow, right? So even if there is any syndrome, I'm pretty sure the great entrepreneurs would come out of it, right? And that's the part of our journey. None of us are perfect. We all have bigger dreams. We all want to change the world. We all want to build a customer backward business. And in that journey, we fall into traps, right? And the best way to come out of that trap is to stay honest, to stay positive, and we learn and grow, right? We all make mistakes.
But be discontent. That's not a bad thing.
Oh, always, always. It's one of the best things. You can't be in the comfort zone, right?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. I know you have tons to do, including extensive workout. All the best. Best wishes to Team Lenskart and, of course, to you. I'm sure we're going to have more of you on the show. Thanks once again. Deeply appreciate you taking time out.
Thanks, Arijit, for having me here, and wish you a great week ahead.
You may argue I sounded like a fanboy, but what I actually like most about Peyush is his focus on the basics. He actually visits plants of much larger companies to learn and get inspired. The other most important takeaway, his funda in life and to his fellow founders. Be discontent, but don't play God. I'm Arijit Barman, and you've been listening to Peyush Bansal Through the Looking Glass on the Morning Brief. This episode was produced by Nehal Chaliawala from ET and Saundarya Jayachandran from Awaaz. Sound editors Indranil Bhattacharjee from ET and Swati Joshi from Awaaz. Executive producer, yours truly. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. If you liked, please share on your social media handles. We'll really appreciate that. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursdays, and Friday. Thank you for listening and have a nice day. Goodbye and good luck. All sound clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits mentioned in the description.